Hello and welcome back to Leaders in Disguise. It's Gary Parsons here, your host, and this week you've got a little bit of an extra bonus. This week I wanted to give you a unedited extra little clip from last week's episode with the amazing Keira Smith. Keira and I spoke about visible difference, facial difference. We spoke about the show that I was on Channel 4, Love My Face, and Keira gives us a whole new insight into how we are able to deal with challenges, something called social distancing, and just how we can be that little bit more open and process things in a different way. So if you enjoyed last week's episode with Keira, then stay tuned for this extra 10 minutes or so on this week's episode of Leaders in Disguise. So as a speaker, and I'm thinking of the 25, 30, 40, 50 speakers that I sit in a room with.
Yeah.
We're reliving that trauma in front of an audience of 500,000 people.
Kind of, but you guys might have got to the point where you've got emotional distance from that now.
I like that word, emotional distance.
Emotional distance. So a really good example of that is a lady who came to me who had a terrible car crash when she was 18, never driven again. And she'd got to the point where she'd got 3 kids. She wanted to get back on the road. She came to me after a few sessions. She was back out driving, and she actually drove past a car crash. Okay. Now, nobody obviously wants to look at car crashes, but she saw it and she was able to drive past it and carry on. And that's at that point where enough has been processed out the stress bucket that you can look back at it knowing that it's no longer happening. It's not happening to you. And so you can talk about it and you can, share it and be honest about it.
It's like that more rational view of it then,
Absolutely.
I guess, that you lived at. So just for the benefit of the tape, as it were. So we're recording this on the 29th of April. People will, by the time they listen to this, will know, well, it's already gone out. So we're talking, you've seen it, the TV show that I did, Love My Face.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. And that for me, I'm 42 years old tomorrow. It's my getting old. No offense to anyone else. And that was when I was 18. So that was 24 years ago.
Yes, of course.
I locked, and I talk about this on the show. I think it made the cut. I talked about locking that away for 20 years, where I didn't want to. So the benefit of it, sorry, I feel like I'm doing a session, is that...
No, don't.
And people might relate to this, is that happened when I was just turning 18, so
a
real
very
pivotal
age, yeah.
And then for 20 years, bar maybe 1 or 2 conversations, I never spoke about it.
Yeah, totally get that.
And I didn't process it.
Yeah.
And I actually, I had to go back there a little bit in my own head, but actually I didn't really go back that far.
Yeah.
But I started to accept it, and hearing what you're saying, I was at the point where I see some books on the table here. I ordered a couple of books in 2020 to start writing a book.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even lift the book off the table and look at people that had a facial difference, or certainly somebody that had Bell's palsy or Ramsay-Hunt syndrome with facial paralysis.
Yeah.
Because it was so triggering to see that.
Yes.
But now I've just said that to you.
Yeah.
And so I can have these conversations.
Yes.
I mean, crikey, it was on national TV, but it's like, actually, I've got to the point now where I can talk about it because I accept it. It was there. It's a story that I once read almost in my brain.
Absolutely.
Is that similar where we can...
Yeah, I think it sounds like you, especially doing the TV show with all those other incredible people, put you in a nice kind of much more relaxed place because you were amongst other people. You didn't have to explain how you'd felt about that. Those other people knew how. You didn't have to, explain yourself to them. And that you started to relax more. Your sleep probably improved a bit.
Yeah, massively.
And that's how we clear out that stress bucket.
Maybe not so much when it went out on an air a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
I was thinking, oh, right. Well,
Makes
the day before I watched it,
nerves,
I watched it and I was fine. But
it was brilliant.
Certainly.
It was so good. So yeah, it sounds like that was a kind of clearing out, stress bucket clearing out for you, that you'd gone on your own kind of solution focused journey. to get where you are today, feeling like you say, like you can pick up a book, you can look at those pictures and you know that it's okay.
And processed it in
And
a way
you've
that was
processed
that
it,
positive movement forward, rather than just reliving it, perhaps. So
Exactly,
much,
because
which I've got to say was
obviously
hard to watch. I've got to say to watch the TV show because I knew where I was 3 years ago.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, being around somebody like John O'Lancaster.
Jono,
I mean,
big shout out to John.
Gave me a
beautiful
kick
guy.
up the bum watching it. You know, you're like, oh, for God's sake, stop looking in the mirror, worrying about, you know, everything's fine. Just don't worry about it. And I think it was just a very, I can absolutely see how that journey for you would have been really healing. And just, like I said, meeting those people.
Quite grounding.
Having those connections, grounding. And I know, you know, because I lost a lot of my peripheral vision when I had a brain surgery when I was 11. And I never really talked about that because I didn't want people to treat me differently. I could manage, I was fine, other than not driving. I didn't need any help. So I tended not to say anything about it because I didn't want people to treat me differently or you know, patronise. You know what it's like, Gary, patronise you or
accommodate me and reasonably adjust where you need to, but don't treat me differently.
Exactly.
We treat everybody differently, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we are different.
And I think now I'm like perfectly happy. I don't care, you know. I don't make a thing of it. It's not my identity, but I'm perfectly happy to. Because most people, when I tell them, are quite surprised, and they haven't realised. But I met a friend on my hypnotherapy course who'd lost most of her central vision.
Oh, interesting.
And that was really a bit like you spending time with John O'Lancaster and those other amazing people. It was a chance to just chat with someone who had the same kind of challenges, and you know, you didn't really have to explain yourself to them. So I can appreciate where you're coming from with that. That can be a very reassuring place to be with those other people who have walked that walk.
You mentioned this to me during our call.
Yes.
Our long call about camper vans and everything else. And we talked about it as an invisible difference.
Yeah.
But one of the phrases that I'm just looking at my notes, and one of the phrases when I looked back, you mentioned visual impairment and how hard it was to just look normal to everybody else.
Yeah, you work really hard, don't you? To I mean, I've never asked for any. I've never needed any extra help doing stuff. You know, I've just got on with it. My parents, you know, were really good at just like helping me learn to pushing me out the door. You can do it on your own. Get on with it. And if it wasn't for that, you know, some parents might have wrapped their kid in cotton wool, but you know, they weren't being horrible to me, but they were like, come on, get out. And literally the only things I've not done in life are drive and play some contact sports that would have been dangerous. But it's not that's really been it. So, but it is then of the times when you shouldn't be pushing yourself to do something, and just knowing that. And I now feel a lot more relaxed about saying to someone, you know, I'm not actually going to do that because of this. And people don't care, they're fine.
Yeah.
How about that?
They've got enough going on in their lives. They don't need to if you've got that, they've got two. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
absolutely. Or they'll say to me, oh yeah, I'm actually blind in one eye, and you think, or it just, like, I met a guy on holiday. I was staying on a farm in a shepherd's hut, and the guy who owns the land drove up on his quad bike, and he said, I'm sorry, my speech is a bit slurred. I had a stroke 2 years ago. And I could see he was quite embarrassed about it. And I said, you know, I had a brain tumour and this is what happened to me. And immediately you saw him just relax. Just lets other people off the hook, doesn't it? And they think, great, it's all right. They drop the shame about it.
That beautiful vulnerability of humanity where you build connection in an instant with that simple phrase that you just... I don't know if you noticed that. You were like, oh, don't worry, I've had this. Like, that brings that, same way that you said to me when I walked into that studio, into that room where there was other people that were experiencing or could relate to what I went to. We feel so much more at ease to where we were.
Yes.
And straight away you built that psychological safety with him to say, and connection.
That's a really nice turn of phrase, psychological safety. Yeah.
It's in that,
Yeah.
we use it in a big corporate world, psychological safety, but you did it with a guy sat on a quad bike next to you in a field. But you straight away, you just made him feel at ease and almost go, oh, it's fine. Not invalidated him either.
No,
because,
no, it's not to say that's nothing. It's just to say that's all right, isn't it? That's okay.
Don't worry, we've all got something that happened to us or was different. Okay, and that's it. Thanks for listening to this bonus episode. If you want to find more information about Keira Smith, then simply look for Positive Change Hypnotherapy.co.uk. And if you want to find out more about Love My Face, then check out on Channel 4 on the on-demand service Love My Face. And I'm on episode 2. Enjoy.